In the headlines, Dominica to boost its agriculture with significant plant importation as part of the country's post-Hurricane Maria replanting drive. Retired Scotland Yard detective commends the police force for its performance in anticipation of Tropical Storm Beryl. And the Convent High School class of '98 pushes for more analytical thinking among high school girls. I'm Andrea Lee with the Channel 5 News. Back with the details after this.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fenced pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
Thank you for staying with us. First up, businessman Jason Whitchurch Ed is commending government's preparation to the threat of Hurricane Beryl 2 weeks ago. Whitchurch Ed is Operations Director of HHV Whitchurch and Company Limited, whose IGA Supercenter was heavily looted after Hurricane Maria. He commended government's move to enforce a state of emergency, saying that type of action is necessary to protect investments in the country.
The curfew was a fantastic idea. Some may not have liked it, but in any civilized society, you need to have a law and order and security for you to have investment. So I'm very pleased that the state took the decision to hold the curfew, not just because we were one of those who were looted extensively, but because it's necessary for any type of investment, especially private investment, for you to feel safe and secure. I went home on Sunday to observe the curfew, if you will, and I felt safe that if anything happened, we were not going to face what happened before.
Ed spoke to Channel 5 News a day after the IGA Supercenter opened its doors to the public following a 10-month absence due to the impact of Hurricane Maria and looters. And while government is advocating for climate-resilient building techniques, Ed says though the company has changed up some things, the impact of climate change will be felt.
There's only so much that you can do as a company to prepare, so we've secured our properties in the best way that we can. But equipment like what we have in a supermarket it can't be described as climate resilient. If we have another flood, it's going to be damaged. So what we've done is to reinforce the policies, procedures we put in place in advance of a hurricane. Fortunately or unfortunately, the last tropical storm gave us all an opportunity to prepare. Climate resiliency is not a one-day affair, it's a long-term. It requires all players. So we're doing what we can as we go along. The equipment that we've purchased is more efficient, and we have been looking at solar over the years, and it's something we're going to start looking at aggressively this year as well.
Whitchurch Ed says during the supermarket's 10-month absence, millions of dollars had been invested in reopening and rebranding the IGA Supercenter.
In terms of equipment cost and inventory, millions, and in terms of man hours and headaches, millions more. So investments like this are never small, they're significant. We do it for a number of reasons. We have a responsibility for our staff, our shareholders, our directors, to our nation. Yes, we are a profit-oriented business, and we did not have the benefit of that cash flow for 10 months. With that, we can employ people, we can grow who we are as a company in Dominica. So yes, it has cost, it's a multi-million-dollar investment. These things don't come cheap because everything has to be imported into Dominica. Fortunately, a lot of the expertise to put it together is available in Dominica.
In related news, post-Hurricane Maria, police came under fire for the lackluster performance in terms of protecting the private sector from looting, but they are now receiving praise from a former Scotland Yard detective.
From what we have seen, the lawmen recently fared much better in anticipation of Tropical Storm Beryl. That curfew put in place in anticipation of the storm was strictly enforced, resulting in only 4 arrests. Returning Dominican and former Scotland Yard detective Dr. David Michael, who has had a long career in law enforcement in the UK, has added his voice to the chorus of commendation from those who are of the opinion that the police did a commendable job this time around.
I commend the police on their actions after when we were threatened with Hurricane Tropical Storm Beryl, and I disagree with anybody that has offered any criticism of police action to detain, arrest anybody who broke the curfew. However, my own view, and it's a personal view, not everyone will agree with me, but I think our default position shouldn't be a curfew when the next natural disaster is about to come or whether it's come. I think we need to concentrate quite a bit on conventional policing and building relationships with the community, with businesses, and having measures in place with businesses to say, for the police service to have measures in place and to say we as a police service are working in partnership. You should have contingency plans in place, so the chief and his senior leadership team should have contingency. They should brief the minister to say, look, we've got these contingencies in place. Should the situation arise, yes, we will ask for permission to bring in these curfews. But my personal view, with my experience of 30 years policing in the United States, in the United Kingdom, someone who has a strong background in public order policing as well as criminal investigation, is, especially in a lovely country like Dominica.
With 30 years' experience in law enforcement in the UK, Dr. Michael has some advice for the police.
I think we should focus and send a strong message to would-be lawbreakers. I certainly disagree with collective punishment of the whole population because of actual or potential lawbreakers. So I think I would like to see the Minister of National Security, the Chief of Police, send out a strong message to would-be lawbreakers. We will not tolerate it, we will not have it, we're coming after you, but we're keeping all the rest of Dominicans safe, and Dominicans who are not lawbreakers will not be punished because of actual or potential lawbreakers.
David Michael grew up in Belleville-Chopin. His professional background is in criminal justice and community safety. As a Scotland Yard detective, he investigated serious international organized crime and also worked with the FBI in the US.
In other top stories, ASP Cleville Mills says his legal team is ready to counter any action taken by Wise QFM and two of its talk show hosts to appeal a decision by the court in June awarding him $160,000 in damages for defamation.
The master ordered that talk show host Matt Peltier and Wise QFM should pay Mr. Mills damages in the sum of $80,000. The court also ordered Angelo Allen and Wise QFM to pay the same amount. The award of damages to Mr. Mills by the court was the result of a defamation lawsuit brought by attorney Heather Felix Evans on behalf of a client in December 2015. But as Matt Peltier told Channel 5 News back then, it was his team's intention to appeal the ruling. At the time, ASP Cleville Mills also expressed willingness to counter any appeal by Wise QFM and its talk show hosts. ASP Mills told Channel 5 News on Monday his intention was not to appeal the June decision, even if he knew at the time that the award could have been much higher.
Because of the court system, we didn't want to go and delay the court system, so we were satisfied to go along with what the judge gave at the time. But having heard that they go to appeal, we also knew that there was an opportunity for us to send a counter appeal so that we can lay the foundation on the grounds that we think that we had. And that is the judge discounted the amount that she would have given to us because she took certain things into consideration. By that I mean the master. The master took certain things into consideration, which according to my advice, she was not supposed to take them into consideration. So the defendants, they benefit from that error. And now I'm hearing that they are appealing. I don't think it is to their benefit, but I am not representing them. My only concern is that they seem to be using the court in a frivolous manner. Maybe just to keep the matter going and to delay the judgment day, the time that they're really supposed to pay what they're supposed to pay.
Mills says he received the notice of appeal from his attorney, and based on what he's seen, it's weak.
I saw it myself, I discussed it with my lawyer, and the grounds on them, they are very frivolous. You know, I can't see any strong ground that they already have something that is reasonable. They are more concerned about taking it to the limit. You know, I got word even before that was the intention, to stretch it as much as possible. So I mean, you hear people talk about the justice system is not fair, but they themselves well, I can say they're abusing it. I mean, they are within their rights, but any reasonable thinking person would see that they do not have a case. I would maybe say it's more or less a kind of a policy, a strategy. As I said, these people, they are not interested in facts, you know. I mean, there are many cases before the court where we have the precedent that as a journalist, there are certain things you have to do before you go and make statements. You have to confirm the thing, and there are certain things you have to make sure that the story that you are giving out is true, and you have to do your research. But they seem to be satisfied with using a naming and shaming tactics, and hoping that people will not take action. And if you do in fact take action, they will use that same tactic that they're using to see if they can frustrate you.
The Attorney General Levi Peters says he is currently going through recommendations from the opposition and civil society on the anti-terrorism bill, and so far there is not much by way of suggestions that could warrant any changes.
The Minister for National Security had the bill read once when Parliament met on the 25th of June and decided to postpone the matter until submissions or recommendations were received from parliamentary opposition and civil society. A July 15 deadline was later imposed for submission of recommendations. To date, both the United Workers' Party and the Dominica Association of Evangelical Churches, DAEC, have submitted recommendations. The Attorney General says some of the recommendations so far suggest that a better grasp of the provisions of the bill could resolve the concerns of those who oppose it.
Few submissions that have been made. I have not looked at them in depth. I have scanned them or perused them, I should say, fairly briefly. But I have not seen it yet, anything that I think warrants any change. I think those I've seen, the explanations to them are relatively straightforward from my perspective, and I suspect that once those concerns are responded to, that the parties who submitted them would probably agree with the observations. But obviously we'll look at them in detail, and it may be that on reviewing them again that what I've just expressed changes. But I don't anticipate any huge changes based on what I've seen, because what I've seen are comments that appear more to be from a lack of understanding rather than substantive issues that can really be changed or need necessarily to be changed. The process usually works. If we understand what is happening, then sometimes concerns that we have no longer continue to be concerns. And so that's really, I think, if there's a positive thing from this exercise, is that we have a greater opportunity to interact and exchange views, and hopefully we can move forward recognizing that the primary concern is to protect Dominica and all of those who are within our shores from the possibilities of terrorist activity, and also to ensure that we as a country are in conformity with our international obligations and protect ourselves and our people from consequences that could flow if we fail to take responsible action that we have to take.
The DAEC and the UWP's concerns are identical in certain respects. The opposition's view is that based on their interpretation, the Act would consider a normal protest an offense. The legislation states that an act which disrupts any service and is committed in pursuance of a demonstration, protest, or stoppage of work and is not intended to result in any harm to someone shall be considered a terrorist act. The opposition leader feels this description should be revisited.
You are watching the Channel 5 News. Stay tuned for more after the break.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001-275-5003 today.
Welcome back. A reorientation of the plant protection unit is on the cards as Dominica has begun the importation of new plant varieties. This as over 10,000 coconut plants from Costa Rica are on their way to Dominica to help revitalize the agriculture industry. Agriculture Minister Reginald Austrie revealed that several new plant varieties are being looked at to help get the sector back on its feet. He emphasized that gathering as much information as possible is key in ensuring the success of these new varieties in the country.
We have 12,000 nuts on its way coming. We have to know where they came from, what part of Costa Rica they came from, what are some of the diseases and some of the challenges that they had in Costa Rica, because we're bringing them into our country. And what is the potential of bringing in negative foreign agents into Dominica? For all the other crops, we're going to have a problem. Or well, it's not going to be a problem, it's more like a challenge to ensure that we're bringing in the right varieties.
The citrus industry, which also took a battering under Hurricane Maria, is set to see some relief as citrus plants are also being imported into the country.
The citrus we get in, they're bare root. They come with no soil and they come with no leaves. So no soil and no leaves. And you have to get them to grow. So they have to be given a special treatment. They have to be treated differently. You have to pot them now, you have to watch them grow before they can be transferred within 6 or 8 months, transferred to the field outside. The farmers have to be trained in dealing with these new plants and these new crops, because we had a lot of challenges with citrus. And even when the government went out there to Cuba, we got some what we thought were disease resilient plants and we put them in there. We noticed that they were susceptible also.
Austria acknowledged that efforts to rejuvenate the industry come with its challenges, but emphasized that putting the proper machinery in place is key in reducing the potential negative effects of new plant varieties.
You have to reorient your plant protection unit. They have to be ready, because they're dealing with one particular set of diseases right now, which is many, whether it's black Sikatoga, whether it's coconut mite and so on. So they have that on the plate. But now we're bringing in new crops and new plants, so they have to reorient their thinking, and they're learning to dealing with new foreign plants that they're going to have to be working with. So that is a major challenge, getting the right plants from the right areas of the world under the right conditions, because the next 3 or 4 years will determine our success. Because the success will be determined when they start to bear, they grow. You might have a healthy plant looking nice and green, and what you expect, that's not what you're getting. And you'll only know that in 3 or 4 years. So all our effort and our energy, if we're not very careful, in 3 or 4 years could end up being zero.
Cocoa, coffee and avocado are among the other plants to be imported in an effort to revitalize Dominica's agriculture sector. On to matters of education. Convent High School's class of 98 has taken steps to get high school girls more involved in analytical thinking. This was the aim of a one-week innovation camp for girls which concluded last Friday. One of the organizers says the need for such a camp arose to tackle what she saw as deficiencies in the education system.
Going to Convent High School and being educated in Dominica, we are very strong in academics. But when I went to the US, I realized we're not necessarily very strong with non-analytical things, right? So we decided that after the hurricane, we really need to get the young people to figure out how to problem solve using the academics that they have learned already. The girls did much better than we expected. They knew nothing about coding, and now they have robots over there, so it's awesome.
The University of Delaware also joined in on this project.
The big part of the program was problem solving. So the University of Delaware came in every afternoon, they flew in, and every afternoon from 2 to 4 o'clock talked about problem solving methodology. So it was a pretty packed week of all the things that they learned. Now that the week is over, we have mentors assigned to groups of girls that want to solve problems in Dominica. And the thought is that we'll have a check-in 3 months from now to see how the girls are doing, and then the mentors will stay along with them to get their work done.
Meantime, Minister for Education Peter Serja commended the group for focusing on developing the skills among the youth.
Thankfully, you recognize that if Dominica is to make any leaps and bounds economically, that first of all, we must deal with our people. Yes. It is critical that the human aspect of development be addressed in a very focused manner. And what you're doing here is developing capacity, and in the simplest of ways, saying to the young Dominican girls who won't be leaders tomorrow but are leaders now, saying to them, this is the direction that you must go if our country is to be the resilient country that we're talking about.
And the devastation seen at Geneva Playing Field in Grand Bay and the surrounding area following heavy rains could be a thing of the past.
Currently, government is doing something to try to remedy that situation. Channel 5 News had a glimpse of the ongoing bridge building project on Monday. No indication yet as to how much this new Bailey Bridge will cost, but from what we could see, it would be a welcome improvement over the current bridge. When Channel 5 News got there on Monday, we were told preparations were underway for casting of the abutments on Tuesday. The engineer says this project is expected to be completed in 2 weeks. He says the new single-lane bridge is expected to be 42 meters wide with 140 feet span. The hope is that the bridge will be high enough to allow for water and debris to flow beneath during times of disaster without affecting the structure. The engineer told Channel 5 News when completed, the new bridge will rise 6.8 meters above the river level.
Si ou ni maladie HIV et bien maladie sexuelle, si ou pas protéger corps là ou kane sexe avec plusieurs monde, ça kay mette la vie ou à gros danger. Ou ka exposer tout partenaire au poison et que ça qui ka vini avec maladie. Servi yon condom chaque fois ou kane sexe. Changer qui est important pour découvrir maladie à bonheur ou ça vivre en bonne santé même si ou ni maladie HIV. Pour responsabilité, protéger corps et puis les autres. Examiner corps. Aider du bout si même maladie HIV et l'autre maladie sexuelle.
To end the news, the headlines again. Dominica to boost its agriculture with significant plant importation as part of the country's post-Hurricane Maria replanting drive. Retired Scotland Yard detective commends police force for its performance in anticipation of Tropical Storm Beryl. And Convent High School class of 98 pushes for more analytical thinking among high school girls. Feel free to contact us at news@marvin2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Andrea Louis, and to all of our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Join us next time.